If you're wondering what your favorite stocks are likely going to do and what the market is likely to do tomorrow morning, then this is the video for you. Don't skip any part of this video because I'm going to show you two specific strategies to gauge the market and one very powerful strategy that will show you what is likely to happen tomorrow morning, even before midnight and into the overnight hours on Sunday into Monday morning. So you don't want to miss that. Also, before we dive into this conflict in the Middle East and what's likely or potentially likely to happen this week, I've officially launched my ebook. The link is in the information box below. If you wanted to see a sneak peek of my methods of madness and strategy and understand the market and the way I trade and how to trade safe, and you want to see exactly how to achieve better trades and consistent profitability, the ebook is in the information box below. Very limited time. This ebook is only going to be available for another week, and when it's gone, it's done. One time only, and it's the cost of a couple of cups of coffee. So the ebook is available below, and if you're having any issues getting that ebook delivered to your email, check your spam folder. Let's dive right into the issues at hand, which is what the market is likely to do tomorrow morning. We have the Tesla robotaxi event tonight. Not only that, we also have a lot of data coming out this week, but we also have U.S. involvement in Iran. This could potentially drive oil prices up and could potentially damage economics around the world, and that means crude oil prices could jump. And not only that, we could see some volatility spike. The VIX could go up and the stock market could open up and gap down tomorrow morning. But I just want to point out that right after any beginning of a war, like the invasion of Iraq or any of these previous wars, the week leading up to and the day of the event and the day after, there's been a decline in the stock market. But then 2 weeks after the fact, the stock market is doing much better, and within 2 months, it's at all-time highs. This is very important to understand that if something does happen this week, it should be, based on history, short-lived. But this is going to be a rough week. We have a lot of data coming out this week, and we also have robotaxi with Tesla. If that event fails, then that's going to be even worse on the market this week. But if it's a blazing success, then maybe it won't be as bad Monday morning due to the overall sentiment. But I think we're going to have some very rough times. It's going to be dependent on Iran's reaction to this. If they don't attack any U.S. bases or locations, or they don't retaliate to any degree at all, then it should not be that bad, but I still believe we're going to get a dip. And also, if this leads to peace talks, this is just going to be even better. But we also have to understand that the tariff talk now is still on the table. Is this paused? What kind of concerns are there now for tariff talks and all of the issues that we already had? There's a lot going on. Let's take a look at the charts, look at the VIX, understand what data we have coming up this week. And we're also going to look at Nvidia, SOFI, Palantir. We're going to take a look at Google, Meta, and we're going to look at the SPY. Let's dive right in. So we've got a lot going on right now with the Middle East and the tensions that are happening. And I have a feeling that there is going to be a pretty big spike, and the VIX is going to end up in the 25 range and potentially even in the 27 to 30 range. I think realistically, Monday morning, overnight hours into Monday morning, when the market opens too, we're going to be somewhere in between 24 and 30. I think somewhere in this area is highly likely, and I think it will taper off next week into the week after, especially if Iran does not retaliate. This is very, very big. It's critical, because if Iran retaliates, then America is going to go in and it's going to be bad. So there's going to be a lot more volatility, and this could play out into the 32 to 35 range. But realistically, I see mid to high 20s highly likely this week, which is a money-making opportunity by selling options or buying options, because volatility's up, options are worth more, but it's very risky because we also have a lot of data coming out. So we've got to see how things play out. Right now, we're already above 20, which is above my yellow line, and in between yellow and orange, which is kind of in the elevated, I guess you could say, alert stage of the VIX. This is something I teach in my Discord, my masterclass, and my boot camps. And this is a very important thing to understand with the VIX. We have a lot of data coming out this week. Existing home sales on Monday. Jerome Powell speaks on Tuesday. And he speaks speaks on Wednesday. Then we have Thursday, durable goods month over month and GDP growth rates, as well as personal spending, personal income, and core price index month over month Friday. So you have robotaxi tonight. You've got the tensions and geopolitical issues in the Middle East and all of this data this week. This is going to be a rough week. And I really don't recommend getting too overzealous and overtrading this week. Play it very safe. Now, if I was to gauge the market outside of geopolitical issues, with existing home sales Monday, the market would open fairly neutral, maybe slightly bearish, slightly bullish, but fairly neutral, not a whole lot going on. Tuesday and Wednesday, there'd be some elevated volatility because of Jerome Powell. Then I think the market would slip on Wednesday evening and Thursday morning till we get data at 8:30 a.m. on Thursday. If it was good, decent, or met expectations, we would do okay on Thursday. And then there'd be another dip Friday morning based on more economic data. But with all of this, and then you throw into the mix the geopolitical issues, not looking good. It could be a very rough week, and it really is going to depend on Iran and if they retaliate. If they do not, then things are still going to be rough, but it just won't be as bad. Looking at the SPY, we can see where the previous support levels were and are. And this is my AVP, which is my average weighted price, which is a mastermind strategy I teach my students. If you guys are interested in learning my strategies, having a sneak peek at my methods of madness, the strategies I use, and how I gauge the market and trade, my ebook is now available. The link in the information box below, and you can get it for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. It will only be available for about another week, and when that time is up, it's gone forever. Never going to be bringing it back. So this will be your chance to grab the ebook before it's gone. So we can see that SPY's previous support is 576 to 580. We have another support at 565 and 560. This week, SPY could open up, and honestly, I see it potentially being in the 570 or even as low as the 560, 565 range. If Iran does not retaliate, like I said many times, I still believe we're going to end up Monday and Tuesday in the 584, maybe 577 range. It could be slightly worse if they do retaliate and things get out of control this week. I think at least for a week or two, it could come down into the 550, 560 range. But the realistic approach here is that the previous support and fear were somewhere in the 570s, maybe even 565, but somewhere in this area right here is where the SPY could be this week, potentially. I would be very cautious placing any trades Monday morning. This is a very rough week anyway, not even including geopolitical issues. But let's go ahead and take a look at Google. Google is likely to consolidate and dip down into the 158 to 160 range, somewhere down here, maybe even more. There was a little bit of a sell-off on Friday and Google dropped down, and I explained this to my students and in a previous video that instead of buying stocks like up here at the top and putting a stop loss here, put a buy order here. Anybody who did that would have almost got into Google at 166 or may have. Or you wait for it to drop and then sell puts down here, so it has to drop again, and then you're grabbing stock at a much better price. That is the way to do it. Google is, like every other tech stock, likely to suffer with geopolitical issues. As crude oil goes up, volatility goes up, it is likely that Google will slip into the 156 range, give or take. This is very possible, but it's really going to depend on what happens today and going through into tomorrow, and what happens at robotaxi and how well Tesla does. That also has some influence on the market. I think that Palantir will actually do okay with this geopolitical issue between Iran and Israel and the US being involved. In fact, I don't know if there's going to be much of a dip on Palantir. There may not be. Palantir might just go straight upwards because it's 50% government, 50% commercial contracts. It has a lot of government contracts, and a very large portion, approximately 50% of the business, is in government defense. So when the stock market opens up in the overnight hours and into the morning pre-market hours, 7 a.m. and beyond, I see a very real world possibility where Palantir might dip a little bit and then start running, or just straight go up. But essentially on Monday, I see Palantir breaking above into the 145, 146 range potentially, just because the sentiment is looking at Palantir as a safe haven. Now, I'm not saying it's a safe haven. I'm not saying it's not overvalued, because it sort of is. But in these times of duress and issues, investors flee, they panic, they worry, and big money moves. And what they typically do is they go into bonds, they go into crude oil, they go into foreign currency, they go to money markets, and they go into stocks that are involved in defense. And Palantir being involved heavily in defense and AI with AIP boot camps is making it a very strong and attractive place to put your money if you're a big time investor, which means Palantir is likely to run pretty decently this week based on these issues. If I had to bet any stock in the market that would do well this week, I would think that Palantir's got the better chance and highly likely to move up and notch up into the 145 range for Monday, maybe even higher. But that's how I feel about Palantir, and that's how a lot of people feel. That's how investing works. They look to defense stocks, and this being a defense stock slash AI slash tech. So this is something to really consider this week. There could be some big time movement in Palantir, a lot of volatility. Looking over to Nvidia, I would be very weary about Nvidia, just like I would with SPY and most other stocks. I think stocks like Coca-Cola, Starbucks will go down a little bit, but it won't be drastic. I think American Airlines will be okay. HIMS should be okay. Affirm. The stocks that'll take the biggest hit are going to be Nvidia, Google, Meta, maybe Microsoft. AMD might take a little bit of a hit too. The market will, generally speaking. Tesla should. Walmart might take a little bit of a hit as well. Overall, everything will. But stocks like Coke, American Airlines, Starbucks, those stocks typically take a little bit less of a beating during these types of issues because they're not really set up for the same type of market sentiment that other stocks would, like the tech sector. So it's very likely that Nvidia could dip on Monday and Tuesday and this week down into the 135 or even into the 130 range. It's really hard to say how low it will go, and it's really hard to say exactly what will take place because of the fact that we haven't seen Iran's reaction. They have not done anything yet. We don't know the outcome of that. We don't know the outcome of robotaxi because that doesn't happen until tonight. So there's a lot on the table. Potentially, Nvidia could drop to 130 or even as low as 120. It's very possible that one of these three levels on Nvidia could happen. It's very possible. And likely, if things get any worse at all, this is a likely scenario. No response, no retaliation. Monday, we're probably dipping into 134 and working our way back up. If there is a retaliation, it's most likely going to drop to 130 or 120 and move its way up. This is just inevitable if things get worse. Looking at SOFI, this stock is a little bit stronger than Nvidia in a situation like we're in right now, typically. But again, like every other stock, we're above the AVP. So SOFI could end its nice run here and end up back down at $13.50 or even $13. Somewhere in this range is almost imminent that we're going to be down in the $13.50 to $13.80. Like we're going to drop $1 probably on SOFI Monday morning. That's what it looks like. I could be wrong, but based on these tensions, it's really going to depend. If Trump comes out and talks about how there's peaceful talks, and this happens tonight or in the overnight hours tonight going into Monday morning, then pretty much everything I've said in this video most likely won't happen. But if there's no peace talks and there's any retaliation or anything that signifies this could get any worse, this is what we're looking at. It's going to be a little bit of a rough week here. And so we have to be very, very careful. Microsoft is no different. And I believe that as strong as this stock is, we could see potential downsides to 450, which is where Microsoft likely would go. And if things get any worse, it could end up down into the 423 or even back down to 400. Now, I think that drop will be a little drastic, but I realistically see 415 to 435, somewhere in this range, very likely Monday or Tuesday, unless we have some form of resolve. Maybe this will be a little stronger. It's hard to predict exact movements, but we can generally say this is going to be very rough. We have a lot of support here on Microsoft at 456, 448, and even more down here at 445. And there's some down here at 420, 430, but the big supports are in the 440 and 445 range. So Microsoft could see itself dropping $30 as every other stock we've discussed in this video. But the big importance of this is very simple. If there's nothing else that happens and nothing else gets worse, we're going to see a dip on the stock market Monday, because we also have data Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. And it's going to get worse into Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. But if the data is good all week, it will help offset a lot of the issues that are going on in the Middle East. If there's retaliation, it's going to be even worse than that. It's going to dip even more, most likely. If there's any type of peace talks today and tomorrow morning into market open, then things should be okay. But the market, in my opinion, is still going to be a little bit volatile and rough anyway because of all the data. So barring all of the issues in the Middle East, even if we had not gotten involved, so even if there was peace talks and this had never happened, there's still all this data this week. And the markets are still going to be slightly bearish on some of the days this week because of all the immense data that's coming out and the anticipation. So there's a lot going on. Overall, this is a rough week. I would not be looking to enter any positions. I would be very cautious this week. It is very rough with everything that is going on in the world right now. I'm about to show you a very powerful strategy on how to gauge the market, what's likely to happen leading up in the following week. And you're able to do this at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday to show you exactly what is likely to happen in the market Monday morning. And you can watch it all evening into the overnight hours into Monday morning. Before we do that though, just want to mention one more time, I have launched my ebook. The link is in the information box below. It's the cost of a cup of coffee, or couple of cup coffee that is, and it's very limited time. It's only going to be available for another week, and when that time's up, it's gone forever. If you want to take a sneak peek and a dive into my methods of madness and my strategies to help gauge the market and learn more and add more to your arsenal of knowledge in the stock market and to win more trades, I implore you to explore the ebook below. The link is below. I hope that you guys enjoy the book, and be sure to check your spam folder as there are some issues with the ebook download going to the spam folder. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what you do to gauge the market in the overnight hours Sunday night. You're going to look at the futures, the micro mini S&P, which is the MES. Anytime you see a gap up like this, the market likely gaps almost every time. In fact, pretty much every single time. So whenever you see this gap right here in the overnight hours, this means the market's going to gap up and run Monday morning. Anytime you see a gap down like you see right here, the market is likely to dip into the early morning hours. So what we're looking for tonight at 6 p.m., we are looking to see what happened. And with the issues going on with Iran, I am going to be leaning towards some bearish scenario that we're going to get a gap down, something like this, and a candle down here, and we're going to get a drop, which means the market's going to drop down like this. However, it could gap up, which I really don't see happening, but it could gap up and then continue to run. This could be one of those times where the sentiment in the market may be completely different just because the fact that Trump just went in and handled business. But I would not be counting on that too much. And you really want to watch the movement of the MES, and these mini S&P 500 futures are going to be very decisive tonight. We're waiting to see what happens at 6 p.m. Gap up, gap down, or consolidation like we've seen like this. And just to show you guys, last Sunday when the market opened, or the futures opened, you can see right here, there was a little bit of a sell-off. And then, so right here we can see that 6 p.m. Sunday, everything gapped up. We go back and look at a firm 6 p.m. Sunday, which is right here. So if we look at a firm and we look at 4 a.m., we see it gapped up here, just like the MES, like the mini S&P futures. And if we look at other stocks, let's go take a look at Meta. And if we look at Meta last Monday, right here, it gapped up. You see? Meta gapped up right there. If we look at Nvidia, right there, it gapped up. Every stock gapped up. So it follows the MES. Wherever the mini futures of S&P 500 go at 6 p.m. tonight into the overnight hours, the overnight market is going to follow, and the early morning trading hours at 7 a.m. are going to be indicative of that, and they're going to follow. And when the bell opens at 9:30 a.m., it's going to continue to follow that. And I feel like there's a very real world possibility we could have a bloodbath. Be very careful. I think that if the stocks drop like I think they are likely to do as we get some resolve in data this week, if the data is good and we get near the end of the week and there's any form of resolve, this could be a buying opportunity for stocks to dip again. I'm not saying the stock market's going to dip for sure, but it's very rough, very volatile and unsafe. I would be very cautious this week in the markets. I would be taking profits if you're in the green and you see that the market's dipping Monday morning and you're losing profit and your profits are getting smaller. I would get out, let the market come down, then get back in, because if the market drops in the overnight hours and in the pre-market into opening bell, it's going to continue to dip throughout Monday and possibly the week with all of this data. So be very careful, manage your profits accordingly, and I will see all of you guys on the next video or in the Discord real soon. Grab my ebook. It's available in the link below. I'll catch you guys very soon. Take care of yourselves in this very rough week I believe we're about to have. Take care, fam.